All right, I got 6:33. We're going to go ahead and get started. Call the meeting to order. Ask for roll call, please.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
All right, if you could rise, please, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we got minutes from the regular meeting, August 14, and special meeting, August 21st.
I move for approval of the regular meeting minutes from the August 14th and the special meeting minutes of August 21st.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second then for approval of the regular meeting, August 14th, and special meeting, August 21st. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not, same sign. All right. Thank you for all that are in attendance. We got a nice large group tonight, so thank you for being here. Thank you for all of those that are watching on the YouTube channel as well. So appreciate your attendance and involvement this evening. We do not have anybody signed up for public comment, so we will move forward to the agenda.
I would like to make a change in the agenda. I'd like to switch the order of 8.2 and 8.1 so that the high school out-of-state goes first. And I make a motion that we make that amendment as presented.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second then to switch 8.1 and 8.2. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not? All right, then I would ask for a motion of approval of the agenda.
I make a motion we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All right, motion and a second then to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not, same sign. All right, and that takes us right down to reports by admin. We will start then with 8.2, high school auto class trip requests.
Good evening. Thank you again for the amendment. We have a couple students that are here to present on their DECA trip right away. They are dressed this way because they have Macho Man tonight in the field house and they are ready to cheer on their side. So first, it's in your packet that I sent to you. It would be page 4 and 5. The DECA trip, the DECA International, and then the DECA Sports and Entertainment Conference, and I will let our students speak for themselves in this.
Hi, I'm Candace, and this is my first year doing DECA, and I had the opportunity to go to Cal, which was super fun to learn all the networking and all the business things, and it would be really fun to have more opportunities to go out and network and learn things for DECA.
One of these trips is the Sports and Entertainment Marketing Conference in Orlando, Florida. And I'm Isabel Lehner. I'm one of the officers of DECA this year. Last year I made it to state, and this year I'm going to shoot for internationals, which is in California this year. And I'm excited to try to get there, and I hope you guys approve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julie Schrader. I'm the DECA advisor, and we're just asking for permission to go to those couple places, and I think the kids did a great job. We've been pretty busy. We've done all kinds of things. We have done the DECA students run the Beaver Lodge after hours, so if you see them open, and they also do some of the ordering and picking out of merchandise and work with the local community. And trying to find merchandise to be able to put in the store. They did the Benvenuto's night. They did crushed soda for Valentine's Day, Daddy-Daughter Dance, Fall Festival downtown. They did the cookie walk at the Chamber of Commerce. And they're wearing T-shirts from the COW Leadership Conference that we did this summer. We also, like Isabel said, we got to state conference, and I did take 2 students to ICDC, which is their international conference. And last year it was in Florida. So. Any questions on?
I have a question for the Anaheim, California dates. The papers that we got say April 26th to April 20th. I think that's probably reversed, but just wanted to confirm.
Oh, yeah, I had the 27th through the 30th is what I had,
Okay.
is that, yeah.
So you said that there'd be an ability to fundraise enough that people will be able to afford to go?
Well, that's our hope. So if they want to go, then they're going to have to up their fundraising a little bit.
There you go.
So more than we have before, yeah.
While you're here, I just want to say I really appreciate the resurgence of DECA at the high school and all the activities
you.
that I see you doing, both there and in the community. So we really appreciate seeing you around town and making your presence known. So
Yeah.
thanks for all your work with
Thank
that.
you.
Is there a deadline for the dates for either of those trips that the kids have to meet?
Not at this time. In fact, information's just first coming out now through the main DECA organization, and so we're a little limited on information we have out. We are just actually meeting with all of the students next week, Wednesday, in the auditorium for informational meeting for students that are interested in DECA that were not part of DECA last year. And then we'll take the next step and come up with deadlines and things.
Okay.
Yeah. You mean, there are some deadlines from the national to sign up, right? Is it December?
So for the sports and entertainment marketing, it's December 1st for registration. And then for ICDC, which is internationals, it is, I think, February 15th or something like that.
And I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. And I have to concur with Joanne. I'm really glad to see the resurgence of DECA. My daughter was in it when she was in school here and had tremendous, response from her as to, the things she learned there and the fun she had as well. So,
Thank you.
I make a motion, we approve the DECA trips as presented.
second,
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the DECA trips as presented. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
All those not, same sign.
Thank you.
Who's going to win tonight, ladies? All right, just making sure.
Have fun.
All right, we'll move on to the next ones. I believe there's 3 of them from FFA. I'm going to bring a familiar face up to the podium, Mr. John Gansky, everyone.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Gansky, and I'm the agriculture instructor at Beaver, one of the agriculture instructors at Beaver Dam. And I brought one of my students, Rylan. I'll let him tell you a little about himself here.
My name's Rylan Sether. I'm from high school. My SAE is caring for animals in the lab and mowing lawns.
And Rylan this summer went on the summer POA leadership retreat in Upper Michigan, and then also just recently got selected to go to national convention in November, and that's one of the reasons they're here. There's 3 trips you're looking to go out of state for. One is national convention. It's been moved back about a week this year. It's going to be November 1st to the 4th in Indianapolis, Indiana. And then the other one is our traditional program, POA, or Program of Activities Leadership Retreat, which we usually held the 3rd week of July because just before band, so we don't lose too many kids with band. And then the other one we're asking permission to go on this year is the Washington Leadership Conference. I don't think anybody's gone on it maybe for a decade. It's in Washington, D.C. It's one of the oldest leadership conferences in the country. It was started back in the 60s. Students from all over the country go there for a week. They usually have students from north, south, east, west, and they match them up in 4 different rooms. So they get somebody from the south, the east, the Midwest, and the west, and they spend the week learning, seeing the sites, but also getting a chance to interact with other FFA members from the country and bring ideas back to the community to make it better. So you'll notice the dates are kind of fuzzy for the Washington Leadership Conference. January, usually the 2nd week of January is when they post when it's going to be. We don't know. The last couple of years, it's been 6 weeks during the summertime. That's why it's kind of open. Usually it starts like traditionally the 2nd or 3rd week of June, and then it's every week except not over the 4th, and then like 1 or 2 in July. When we'd go depends on what works best for the students that might be going. And then this one, there'd be some money from the FFA, but a lot of it would be fundraising because it's a little more expensive of a conference.
Questions? If not, look for a motion.
Also move to approve the 3 trips that Mr. Gansky's requesting.
Second.
All right, we have a motion in a couple seconds then to approve the trips is presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not, same sign. All right. Enjoy, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next trip in your packet was the exchange to Germany from Jen Tunks. This is very similar to what's gone on the last number of years, I believe since 1996. All the information is in your packet as she laid out. She was real detailed in how she explained things. They're going to be working through the same process that they've taken in the past. Cost of families right now is estimated at about $2,600, which changes depending on the number of kids that are participating. I know in my past, helping coordinate trips like Washington, D.C., the more kids you get to go, the lower that trip comes. You can see she's got 2 advisors, herself and Ms. Teets there. She will have another person involved with that, and a male advisor as well as a chaperone, anticipating anywhere from 18 to 28 students participating and using very similar processes in terms of selection of who goes if they have more than that.
I thought it was really good that she outlined in here the fact that a trip can be canceled at any point, because I know there's just stuff going on that can make trips not happen. So I appreciate that they've looked into that already.
Yeah. Yeah, and mirroring, as she mentioned, board policy in there. Yeah. And that's, when we spoke about it this afternoon, she's made it, or she will be making it very clear with families as to that is a possibility for unforeseen circumstances.
Other questions?
Move to approve the gap exchange.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second then to, I was like, caught it.
listening.
I was listening too much. We have a motion and a second to approve the GAP trip requests is presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not, same sign.
The next
All right.
one in your packet is just Key Club. It's just an overnight trip, not an out-of-state, but just making the board aware that Key Club's looking at doing an overnight trip up to Sheboygan, Wisconsin for the state decon event, looking at approximately 12 students. They had 10 students in the past that have gone, 2 chaperones. Pretty straightforward. What I like here is Key Club and HOSA partnering with other local community schools to make sure we're providing opportunities for students, not only here in Beaver Dam, but elsewhere. So Key Club as a service organization going up in March. So that's just an overnight trip.
It's March 2024, right? That we're looking at?
These are the dates she gave me.
I mean, is
Yeah.
that during a spring break, or is that,
It's right before, it's right in that dead period of time between when sports in the spring are starting up and winter is finishing up. Yeah.
So last year, Carter Kinsey was elected to District 3, so this year he's serving on the board?
Yeah,
That's
was
correct?
elected to the lieutenant governor position on the state board, so
then
pretty
that
big
means that
deal.
this year he's serving in
Yeah,
that
yeah,
position.
it's a pretty big accomplishment for him.
Awesome. I make a motion, we approve that trip as presented with the exceptions in 2024.
second?
All right, we have a motion and a second then to approve the Key Club trip is presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not, same sign.
The next 3 in your packet are for our Performing Arts Department, attending the Clearwater Choral Festival in Eau Claire, at the university, the Dorian Festival at Luther College, both for vocal as well as band. All of the first, or the last 2 trips, to Dorian have been done before with our Performing Arts Department. The UW Eau Claire is a new one. We're working on some specifics with Mr. Lefebvre on that, but it's another opportunity for our kids to get out there and perform and really have a great experience for our performing arts. As you can see, he's laid out the cost of different families per trip, and mode of transportation, of course. Very small groups for the first 2. We're just taking Suburbans down. Mr. Lefebvre and his wife will be attending those as chaperones, as well as a few others as necessary.
I think, is this the first year for the band trip to the Dorian Festival? I think, I hate to ask you that. You probably don't know that. Sorry.
I'm going to say Mr. Galitz is a veteran
I think it's just been choral
there.
in the past. I think this might be the first year for the band, I should have said.
I think Mr. Galitz has done a great job getting our kids some recognition and trying some new things. Last year, they were traveling around the state. I know he did that a lot when he was at Burlington and kind of bringing that along with him. And I know some of the friends of mine that are teachers at different places around the state that are in band and choir have really taken note of what he's done and getting them out and about. So it's great to see what he's been doing in the first 2 years he's been here.
I mean, as a former band geek, these things can be life-changing, so I make a motion we approve these music trips as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second then to approve the performing arts trips as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not, same sign.
The only other things that I wanted to bring up regarding overnights, and I'll keep it real short, are at the beginning of the packet with our athletics overnight trips. 2 of those trips are out of state. Our boys basketball team plans to go to Winona State University to participate in a tournament over break, as well as our girls basketball team traveling to St. Louis. And our wrestling team is staying in state, but they'll be going up to La Crosse and participating in one of the larger tournaments in the state. All overnight trips. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. And really, is a key here to provide an exciting and meaningful and positive experience for our students while they participate in activities that enhance the educational mission of our district.
So just a question on these, it doesn't say in there, are the students responsible for fees with that, or it comes through the?
No, usually their booster clubs pick up the tab for that.
Okay.
I know like girls hoops last year, their Positively Hoops picked up their bus when they went down to Tennessee, and that's pretty standard practice.
Okay.
And our wrestlers, depending on if they need to cut weight, might run, so.
I make a motion we approve the athletic overnight trips as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second then to approve the athletic
I
trip.
just have a question. Where will they be staying? On campus or?
Yeah, so.
Nothing's indicated really to tell me that.
Yeah, so I think that's, part of that's still being worked out. I know wrestling, as we just got that on the schedule, that was being worked out. They'll be staying in hotels, or a hotel, excuse me, they're not staying in multiple. I think when the opportunity presents itself to stay on campus in dorms, but this is kind of that weird transition time, so we're still working those pieces out like anything else. But I wanted to make sure I brought this to the board's attention as they are part of a scheduling process.
And I would imagine this stuff, in winter, kids are still living in the dorms, so it's probably not like a summer camp, so they probably have to stay in hotels.
Yeah, it gets tough. I mean, some universities, like when I was at Whitewater, kicked us out for a little bit. Some weren't that way now. I mean, dorms aren't the same as what they used to be, so.
Any other questions? All right, we had a motion and a second then for the approval of the athletic trip requests as presented. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All those not, same sign.
Thank you very much.
Just an overriding comment with all the trip requests. I mean, I think it's really a huge opportunity for our students. Obviously, great learning opportunities within our school district. But many of us sitting in these seats have gone on some of these trips, and obviously have found them to be very successful from a networking standpoint with other peers. So I appreciate the work that goes into putting those together, the fundraising efforts that go forward, and making sure that the students are able to go. So thank you very much. All right. So let's back to facilities management plan. We have some representatives here.
We do. We'll stall for time here for a moment. Tell some stories. I might as well do my introduction real quick. It's good to see you all. Good evening. I've met most of you before, but for those of you who have not met me, in the past, my name is Nick Kent, and I'm an architect with PRA. and have spent a bit of time here in Beaver Dam working on various projects over the years. So it's really, really exciting for us to be back and just starting the process of taking a look at what some opportunities for the future might look like. And it might look like this presentation. All right, excellent. Now let's see if this works. Yes, okay, great. Really quick, our project team that is working on this. Of course, we have our district leadership team. We've been meeting on a regular basis, and the role of our leadership team in this process is really providing guidance to our overall efforts. We're looking at what is appropriate for the Beaver Dam community, for the school district, verifying data for us. It's critical that we start with a solid foundation of correct information, and also guiding the overall vision, right? It's important for us as architects and builders to always remember that these are the community's buildings, these are the community's facilities, they are not ours. So we have to remain grounded in that vision from start to finish. C.G. Schmidt is our construction manager. We're going to hear from a whole group of them here in a moment. Their part of this, of course, is cost estimating, looking at how we build these things if we do pursue some projects down the road. Managing the construction budget. We have a finite amount of dollars. When we do these projects, we have to make sure we're watching those very carefully, and then looking at bidding and management of all of our subcontractors should projects arrive. And then our role, PRA, we are the architecture firm that is working on the overall project design. In this stage, it's really a visioning and long-range planning process, but if this moves forward, looking at actual building design, project documentation and detailing, and then management and coordination of all of the other engineers and specialists that work alongside of us. Some of those people, I'm the one who got to come here tonight and meet with all of you, but on my team at PRA, there's couple of familiar faces. Devin Kack, who's also been with me for a long time, working here in the district. Nicole Dryden is our project manager. She has some time here working on the Lincoln project a few years ago. And then Melissa Thompson is a newer face to our team. She's actually a former district administrator, so we've added a practitioner to our team. So while we hang out in schools a lot, it's great to actually have somebody as part of our team that has lived and breathed this on an everyday basis. And these guys over here who will come up here in a minute, we got Brian Medina, wave. He's our MEP director. Sarah Dunn, you've seen before, communications, green back there. Mike Dietrich, another familiar face. And then the big guy on the end, Eric Schmidt, he just puts his name on the company. So a quick review of where we've been. So our collective team does have quite a bit of history going all the way back to 2012. Working with the district. So just a few of the things that together we have done. We've looked back at our facilities study. We had some special projects. If you remember the middle school mechanical system replacement that happened, Prairie View expansion, the high school science labs, which are up on the wall, which I'd love to see. Our 2016 referendum focused greatly at the high school, a lot of transformative change there, but also touched all of the buildings within the district, adding secure entrances and some targeted renovations. There was a 2018 facility study that happened that identified some athletic needs and some of our elementary needs, which ultimately led to our Jefferson, I said Lincoln earlier, our Jefferson project, which consolidated South Beaver Dam and Jefferson learning communities into one building, and then a few of our other projects that happened around the district. And then again, there was another 22 facility study to keep up with what some of those needs were, which really identified two primary targets to look forward to. The Washington Elementary updates and improvements and the middle school solution, which is kind of a nebulous term for what we're starting to study. Over at Washington Elementary, we're focusing on how do we transform that building into a 3-section learning environment to support our students for years to come. We're looking at how can we create purpose-built art and music rooms within that space to really support those program needs to their fullest. And of course, looking at dedicated and accessible special needs spaces. That's a common thing, right? The building was built at a time when those were not focuses of how we met students' needs. So we want to look at how we can better accommodate all of our students within these spaces. And then at the middle school, and we say middle school solution because we are looking at a larger challenge with that current building. And what are our opportunities to transform that learning environment into a space that will meet students' needs in our current learning environments and future learning environments. So more on that to come. So what have we been doing? So we really got off and running in April. So of course there was an interview and a selection of both an architectural team and a construction management team, which brought us to today. So our team is put together. We started this process with facilities assessment, walkthrough, and report. So building upon information that had been started, we went through and did a very detailed verification process of our facilities that we were studying, building our knowledge, again, from the ground up. We did an educational space adequacy walkthrough and interviews. So it's really important for us to hear from the leaders who are in those buildings on a daily basis. So that's the principals within each individual building, but also district leadership, talking to curriculum, our special education direction, facilities and security, understanding how the buildings are serving the needs of the community, or in some cases not serving the needs of the community. We've been looking at the middle school site. It's no surprise, it's a very, very tight site over at the middle school. So trying to understand really quantitatively how short are we at that particular location, and looking at the additional district land that has been acquired out on the edge of the community. We then built a model school program, and in brief, what a model school program is if we were creating a school from scratch, if we had a blank slate, what is it? What would that school look like? How can we best serve the community of Beaver Dam? And using that tool as a benchmark to start to evaluate our elementary schools and our current middle school. So what is the delta between what we believe we should have versus what we do have? And what are those gaps in between? And then we've also been working on our communications and long-range planning strategy. So it's very important, of course, that just like tonight, we are starting to share this information out and make sure the community, you all, stakeholders, are in the loop and brought up to date each step of the way. So let's dive into our two primary sites that we're looking at. Beaver Dam Middle School. Quick snapshot in time. Of course, it was built in 1922 originally as the high school. So it was not built as a middle school, which is important for us to remember. And over time, 1964, 77, 89, 97, this building has grown and grown and grown and evolved into what it is today. We wanted to note what we called it the emergency repairs that have happened at the building. 2013 was that mechanical system replacement. And if any of you remember us talking back then about the stalactites and the water that was actually running in front of the electrical panel, it was pretty bad. So that was addressed. And then 2019 was the car accident and fire in the building. So we just wanted to note that there were two projects that did happen of some scale within the building. Back to that site size. So the site is about 5 acres. 3.5 of them are contiguous, and 1.8 of that are actually the building footprint. So when you really start to look quantitatively at how small this site is, it is very, very small. For comparison's sake, a brand new recommended site would be about 27 acres for a middle school, just to put that in perspective. About 700 students here, and of course we're serving grades 6 through 8.
Thanks, Nick. Just getting to the facilities assessment and our approach to verifying that. First, it started with reviewing the ISG facilities assessment report that was done not too long ago. We also walked through the middle school, Washington and Wilson, both interior and exterior. We verified existing reports and maintenance lists from the staff and just got a good feel of what's going on in these buildings. And then we provided current estimates with inflation factored into it. The next steps is really to incorporate the capital maintenance list into our new project solutions that PRA will help with. Just diving into this in a little more detail, Brian Medina and his team really did extensive review of the middle school specifically, inside and out, reviewing all of the equipment, looking at model numbers, serial numbers from the different pieces of equipment, looking at the age of those units and what we call as useful life of the equipment remaining. Priced up all of those things in today's dollars using historical data and some subcontractor feedback. So those repairs and future maintenance and replacement costs were all factored in. And then we recorded those over a timeline. So if there was only 5 years left on that useful life, at at the 5-year mark, we were replacing that unit. What did the assessment confirm? Well, that there are some urgent capital needs at Beaver Dam. Most specifically, revolves around the MEPs, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, but then there's the exterior upgrades too with the masonry, tuck pointing, and repairs, and as well as roof replacement. The facility planning timeline that we have, this assessment that we have provided does fall right in our overall plan for this early fall.
So again, my name's Brian Medina, MEP Director for CG Schmidt. So like Mike said, we went through the school, the middle school, and really what we wanted to do is create that baseline. If there was no project moving forward, but just to maintain the school, what would it take? And so we really got a couple things I want to note. So Mike mentioned the end of the useful life. So what does that mean? Every piece of equipment has an expected lifespan. Now, does that mean in 15 years, because it's at the end of its useful life, it'll stop working? No. Think about it a lot like your car. That's usually the inflection point when we say, does it still make sense to dump money into a 1992 Nissan Sentra? There's a point in time. So that useful life is kind of that, comparison that I have. So when we're going through anything that needed to be maintained in the building, that needed upgrade, that, any pieces of equipment, that's what showed up on the list. And from the assessment detail that we did, main things that came out of it is one, the hazardous materials, which is not a big thing unless you touch them. And we're talking, asbestos type things. Exterior of the building, some cracks were definitely noted. So masonry and tuck pointed were needed. And then as well as a plan for the roofing to get that replaced. The school does not have wet sprinkler for fire protection, which isn't necessarily a need or a code requirement unless we're going to do something to it. And typically that trigger point is 50%. So if we're 50% remodeling a space of a heavy remodel, that code kicks in and it will be needed. So right now it's on the list, and kind of where that sits really depends on whether the project moves forward. A lot of aging infrastructure behind the walls, galvanized piping for plumbing, and some of the fixtures needed to definitely be replaced, as well as all the head-end equipment like the water heaters. From a mechanical standpoint, the middle school is very unique as to where you have heating from one system, which is the unit vent hot water system, and then you have the forced air that was done in 12 that adds the air conditioning, so it's two separate systems. Obviously, the forced air one's newer. It's more to the back of that list. It's 10 years ago. I mean, sounds like it's not that long, but 10 years ago you're starting to creep up on some of that, getting to the end of its useful life. So comprehensively going through, and then the unit ventilators are all pretty old and inefficient, as well as, speaking on efficiencies, the exterior window single pane. So electrical service definitely needs upgrading, as well as upgrades for LED lights. So that makes up the lion's share of what needs to be done to maintain that school building. And the next slide kind of shows that. So if you look at the list, you kind of notice that the first one, $19 million, doesn't necessarily equal what's the rest. And that's true. $19 million represents, 19,415 represents, if we had unlimited funds and we said, let's fix everything today, we would put it out to bid, and everything that shows up on the list, the things that would need to be fixed and replaced, would be done, and it would cost $19 million. I don't have $19 million laying around, so what we need to do is plan accordingly. So you notice the biggest chunk right there. There's nothing in there that's a code requirement that doesn't work or someone is going to get injured. That's a good thing. So that's why there's nothing really in that first year plan. But 2 to 5 is when you see things starting to come off pretty quick. And the heavy amount of that is those things we talked about, the roofing, the mechanical systems, and electrical upgrades. Again, then you get to that next tier, the next tier of the forced air, and chances are the right solution is kind of between that forced air system and the hot water system. But then some of that older stuff shows up in that bucket of 6 to 10 years. Those are things that, if we're doing some sort of project on the site, we should keep those in mind of what they are and try to incorporate as much of that as humanly possible into the project. And then you have 10 plus years. There's a handful of things that were done recently that you won't need to really worry about for another 10 years. So that's kind of how the breakout was, and happy to answer any questions on that portion of the facilities assessment, if anyone has any.
So when you're looking at these types of things, you're really, like, you're able to take what you see now and what you
Yes.
expect, but there's gonna be more. Like, this isn't it, like, there's always more. It
Yeah.
feels like as we go along, that things happen.
Yeah, I
Cars
would
hit a
say
building or-
from a general, from really what we're looking at is from your facilities and maintenance staff. So the things that they need to maintain or hire contractors to maintain, your air handling system, your boilers, your roofs, a lot of those things that they maintain is things that we look at. Now, we can peel back a wall and say, oh boy, there's something really wrong
Right.
here. Yes, you're correct. It's pretty much assessing everything that needs maintenance, but there will be, like anything else, things that'll show up at the most inopportune times.
I just have a question that, it just kind of interests me when you said televise the underground sewer. What exactly?
Yeah,
Is-
really, that's an operations and maintenance thing. You want to put a camera under there. Typically in older buildings, what tends to happen is the building settles and the materials get more brittle, you tend to see cracks, or underground, you tend to see tree roots, just similar to your house. So you want to make sure those are clear. Again, those things are much better to be a preventive maintenance thing and figure out you have an issue until it becomes a critical problem.
Brian, it's literally putting a camera down the pipe.
Yeah, it is absolutely, literally.
Very cheap.
That is not a big thing. That's more of a, we should be doing this on a regular basis, and we should need to make sure that the infrastructure is sound, the stuff that we can't see. Now, we could televise that, and then, yes, notice we have a bigger issue than that was documented, for sure. I banned my wife from buying Drano.
So just a question without getting too detailed.
Sure.
I understand that we have the dual system where we have the two kinds of heat. We have the forced air and we have
Yeah.
the other. So the areas that have the other, they don't have air conditioning, or they do through the
No,
forced air?
they do. So what happens is you have your hot water boiler, and it reaches all of the unit vents. So the unit vents are like those big cabinets that sit in front of the window. And typically, like if you were putting in those today, you'd have hot water going through them and chilled water. Now, when the project was done in 12, my assumption was it was more cost-effective to go to a forced air system and work your way in the ceiling than it was to tear out the walls. Fully understand why it happened. It just might make it a little bit difficult in those shoulder months when you have some teachers that are hot and some that are cold, and now you're running a boiler and an air handler at the same time. As
Working
opposed
against
to-
yourself.
Yeah, it's unique. It's not completely uncommon. I understand why the solution was made, and there's nothing wrong with the solution. I think from a unit vent standpoint, the age of those, and from an efficiency standpoint, and then obviously with recent COVID and air exchanges and filtration being more on the front line, that's probably something we might want to look at upgrading just in general anyway.
And just, I think I heard you say in part of your presentation that some of that was due for replacement 10 years ago. It had exceeded
No,
its
it
life?
was done in 2012, was the forced air conditioning part of the
Okay.
program. So, correct.
Parts.
But if you think about a school year and students being in there, if we're talking air exchanges and filtration, the majority of that's going to fall on the older, antiquated heating system.
True, yeah.
So yeah, I get why it was done. It's nothing wrong with it, but I think the broader picture is as that stuff becomes more of a focus.
Sure.
It might make sense to switch to a all-in-one system that does both heating and cooling.
But I'm sure it's not easy to move around in a building that was built in 1922 to get things through the walls.
You know, there's a lot more unknowns. Yes.
Did the facilities assessment look at the individual classrooms and the size of them? and the needs?
that in one
You're gonna get to-
Excellent question.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect segue. Thanks, Mark. So, yeah, here it is.
Good job, Marge. Nailed it.
So, right, so, while the maintenance piece is really important to understand, even those numbers that we just looked at, don't do anything to address this, the educational adequacy. So if you did have $19 million and we just said, let's fix all these things, it doesn't fundamentally change the building. It's still the same building that we have today. So the second part of this is looking at how well does this building as a teaching tool serve the needs of the community. So this is kind of a condensed analysis of where some of the key spaces are size-wise within the building. So you see the existing average, so that's what is in the building today. So a core classroom is just under 800 square feet, and there's some smaller, there's some bigger, but say just under 800 square feet on average. The proposed standard, or what we would see typically if we were building brand new today, is 1,000 square feet or more. So our classrooms, on average, are small within this building. Science labs, you're actually doing pretty good on size. However, you'll see a little asterisk next to that on the side. The current building is really short about 2 labs. If we want to have 2 true science labs per grade, we have 4. We have 3 grades. So while the labs that exist today are well-sized, we just don't have enough of them. Art rooms are fairly significantly undersized. You can see between 685 and 990 square feet. They should be about 1,500 square feet to give the elbow room. And similarly, kind of going down the line, you'll see where our inadequacies are. I will point out the library is sort of an anomaly. That's a very large space within the building. So normally we'd see about under 4,500 square feet for a school of this size. We are just under 5,700 square feet. So we're doing good there. We got a green on that one. And then I think it's important to point out too, the second one with the double asterisks on the bottom, tech ed and agriculture. So as the curricular offerings in the building have evolved, the space has not necessarily evolved with it. So the building only has a wood shop, and there's really no space for true agricultural programming within the building. So as we think about what the curricular evolution has been, has the building kept up with it, or is it able to support those things? So we have some space challenges as well as our maintenance challenges. So just a quick review of what some of those modern spaces might look like. So when we think about what a standard classroom would have today, access, of course, to natural daylight and views is sort of fundamental to where our classrooms are acoustically separate. They're thermally comfortable. So Brian just talked about there are different systems of different vintages. How do we keep everybody in the building comfortable and focused? Multiple teaching walls, so we think about every surface. How can we use those as places to learn? Furniture is flexible. That's not necessarily tied to the building itself, but it's a piece of that learning environment. And then we would say a minimum of 900 square feet of rectangular space is kind of the core learning area within those classrooms that we just said were, as a whole, about 1,000 square feet. Thinking about what some of our spaces are that are maybe not there. So on the left is the old gym at the middle school that really serves as our student commons, and of course the space on the right is what you've all experienced is really a true flexible, vibrant, multi-purpose student commons. So we're definitely short of the mark in those types of spaces. Thinking about flexibility. Interestingly, this building was renovated in the 90s, and there was a view towards injecting some flexibility. So on the left is an image, of course, of what those collaboration spaces look like. The footprint is there. Unfortunately, so are many columns, lockers, walls, things that directly obstruct the view and access to those spaces from the learning spaces. So on the right is an example of another newer middle school. Essentially the same type of footprint, but without all of those obstructions within it. So now you have visibility to that space, so students can go out, there's passive supervision, staff can keep monitor of those students when they're in that space, and the students can remain visually engaged back with their classroom as well. Thinking about what some of those additional curricular offerings are, we mentioned agriculture already. We create these wonderful spaces over at the high school, but there's really no comparison for the students in 6th through 8th grade who will be going up to those spaces when they're done at the middle school. And then thinking about what our manufacturing and fabrication spaces might look like. And this is actually a middle school on the right side. Familiar tactic here, this was a converted gymnasium that turned into a large, flexible, open fabrication and hands-on learning space. Finding proper homes for robotics and STEM so we can celebrate different types of learning, different ways to think and use our our hands to engage our minds, and then properly tuned and sized spaces for music and performing arts for the middle school ages. And then maybe lastly, thinking about how do we engage the broader community? Can we create spaces like community rooms that can function as school spaces, but also have the ability to be locked off, secured from the school building during the day? So maybe we have an opportunity to allow community members, community functions to actually happen within the school safely and securely at times during the day, and not interact with the students when that shouldn't be happening. So that's a brief buzz through the middle school. We'll touch on Washington Elementary quickly here. Of course, some of the spaces that are there today, some are tired. We've been in those spaces, some worn finishes, maybe lighting isn't the greatest. Rooms that have been purposed for things that happen today that didn't happen before, such as a speech room, some of our specialists. The building is somewhat tired. When we think about what some of those needs and opportunities are, parking, access to the site organization, better playground facilities, more accessible playground facilities for students and for the community are really important at that school, as well as just expanding the building to, of course, we mentioned earlier, accommodate 3 full sections of students. And then broadening out even more, if we think about the district as a whole. We touched on the middle school, of course, in Washington as our 2 primary projects, but some things that we should be keeping an eye on district-wide. Not just at these 2 schools, but kind of all around. How are we able to create more commons, community spaces, open these buildings? Are there ways that we can make them more accessible, more flexible for broader community use? Of course, here on the right side is the space at Jefferson that we created just a few years ago, full of students and full of life. It'd be wonderful to do that more broadly across our district. Thinking about play spaces as a whole, these are school spaces, but they're also community assets, right, when school is not in session. So having the proper equipment, making sure that all community members can get to them regardless of mobility or access. And then thinking about campus safety beyond the front door. So we have addressed our front door security, our actual building security in prior efforts, but thinking a little bit bigger. How do we look at the site as a whole? Where are those perimeters through fencing or other areas to denote where we have school space and we have open community space, and create additional barriers? Also thinking about how can we safely drop off and pick up on all of our campuses, and how can we just make that better, smoother, and safer. And I'm going to turn over to Sarah.
Thank you, Nick. You're welcome. So, hello, everyone. I know a lot of you. So I've been working with the district since 2012, so happy to say I've been hanging around here. You guys haven't gotten rid of me yet. I'm a senior vice president with CG Schmidt, and then I head up all of our communications and master planning services for the firm, and have a whole talented team behind me that supports us. So one of the things we want to talk to a little bit is Nick mentioned the communications and long-range planning. So that's where we kind of come in to support the district. So one of the things that we want to really do is educate the community. If we decide to keep moving the process forward, we want to make sure that we get all this information out to the community in a variety of different ways. One of the first ways we do that is just all the different organizations that make up this district and this community. And as you can see here, most of them are listed here. So what we do is we've already started to identify what all those organizations are, where all of the board and the district administrators will be out getting in front of these different organizations as we go through this process. And then we've already created a community engagement calendar. So this is just a way to kind of manage the process so that we know all the events that are coming up and great ways that we can get out and, just educate the community on all the different, things that we're doing to get through this master planning process. And then next steps will be, we're planning to do a board workshop in late November. So really to, get in front of the board and really kind of work through the different steps. Of course, community and staff engagement, we'll be doing that. We really, once we get hired and work with the district, we kind of start that community engagement right away and making sure that we keep the community informed, but we'll continue to do that and really ramp that up. Once we get the community survey back, and that'll be in the spring of 2024, so we got to hear from the community. That's kind of our first way to really educate them on what the different solutions will be. And so those are kind of the next steps in the process. And then one of the ways that we really, kind of manage this whole potential path forward is there's a lot of information, there's a lot of different tools that we use to get that information out into the community. And as you can see, we've already started to map that process out as well. So we tried just about everything, we can think of, different ways, whether it's direct mail pieces, the website, school newsletters, text messaging, whatever we need to do. And then that last 90 days, if you decide to go to referendum, that's that last 90 days that we really call the public information phase. And that's where we really kind of, we make, all-out effort to really make sure that all the community members know what those solutions entail. So any questions for me?
Would part of the plan be to actually give tours to the community members of the facilities?
Yes, we always like to offer that, invite them in to get a tour, so absolutely. I wore my Beaver Dam green tonight, too.
I like it.
Homecoming week, too.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Really not a question, but kind of a comment. A number of us have been on the board a long time, and sometimes we've been on the board when we've touched these buildings, and I think I want to say we've done our best to be good stewards of these facilities. The age is a problem, and I know every time we talked about them, we talked about what we needed to do and what we wanted to do and what the limitations of the facility allowed us to do. And so we've had conversations about this the whole time, and always when we've done something, it's always been limited by the structure, and again, just wanted to say that, I feel like we've been really good stewards of these buildings, and we've pulled everything out of them that we could, every time that we've touched them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an excellent point, particularly the middle school, right? So that's why we identified early on, it was built in 1922 as a high school, and the amount of value that the community has seen from that facility has been tremendous, right? To serve for now over a century for multiple uses, that's a wonderful use of a building, right? Mm-hmm. But it was built for a very different time, for a different purpose, and like we looked at in that one image, it is a very different structure, physical structure, to what we would be looking at today, right? And just because we've looked at all these buildings in different capacities, and we maybe compare that building to the high school, one of the reasons the high school was able to really be repurposed was because it had a different structural system and a different organization than the middle school does, which made it really fundamentally a different proposition to transform its learning environment. So as we continue to think about what the middle school is, we do have to wrestle with some of those physical challenges that the building structure itself puts in front of us. But it has served for over 100 years, and just because there's a lot of maintenance, it absolutely does not mean that the district or the community has neglected it. It's just old, and old things from time to time need to have major reinvestments or reconsiderations of what their best purpose is. Excellent point.
I agree with Joanne. We have, we've made a concerted effort to do this, but we've also through, things like at the school board conventions and stuff, see the change in how teaching is done. And that kind of brings to light the size of the classroom, the uses of the classroom, and the interaction of the students with each other, which sometimes the old method, it's teacher-student, you get that, but that whole thing has changed. And whether or not you like it or not, we have to live in the now, the time where, and look forward as to what's the best options. So, yeah, I know the middle school has, for the people who went there, it has some real fond memories, or maybe some not so fond ones, I don't know. But anyways, so we do need to make sure we address those questions and everything like that. And that's why I think it's important to give everybody an opportunity to come back and look at the school and how it's being utilized and the needs and things like that. And the same thing at Washington School for our purposes as to what we want to do to increase this classroom availability and everything like that. It's important for the community to see the options.
Nick, one question. Do you, in your experiences, have you, one with a building that old, have you had an opportunity to? I guess my question is, do folks renovate buildings like that traditionally, and then also, do you feel like that building has any potential to update it into today's learning type standards?
That's a big question. Yes. Communities do renovate buildings of that vintage. We have completed some where we have completely gutted the interior and built essentially a new building within the confines of the shell of the old. It is possible. In our experience, when we do that, it's actually more costly to do a project like that than to start fresh because of the unknowns, because of the dislocation, the logistics around. You still have to have middle school while you build within that footprint. So where does middle school go, or where do parts of middle school go? That's a challenge. Could we physically transform that building? Yes, I'm sure we could. Is it something that would be financially viable or practical? From a construction and implementation standpoint, would it be desirable from a disruption to teaching and learning perspective? I would guess not. And I think the single biggest limitation there is the site itself. That is a very, very small site for a middle school. So I think if a consideration for a large investment in a middle school project were to be made, you have to consider the question, is that the right place for a middle school for the next generations of students? And is that really even an appropriate site to have a school, period, given its size?
Very good, thank you.
I think the other thing too is, a majority of us have been on the board for a while, and this is like a continuing conversation, right? And it really, I think, emphasizes our ability to long-term plan. This conversation and long history with you guys this is like the third or fourth conversation we've had, right? And so we're constantly looking for what we currently have today, right? Where's the opportunity to provide, really showing really great progress really in the last 12 to 15 years in what we've had and what we have today. And I think, it's important for a school district to make sure they're never not doing that, right? And I think we've really done a good job at doing that, right? Continuously having a conversation about what we currently have today and really guiding it with the one thing we know is all important, right? What do we want those spaces to look like, right? For the best possible education that we can give our kids. And we know we got opportunities, right? And we know we can obviously do better. It's a matter of, what that looks like. And it's encouraging to continue to work with these guys who we've worked with in the past to bring us those spaces and obviously look for the potential to bring us some more real useful spaces. So, other questions, comments anybody has?
So the workshop is digging deeper into all of this?
I'm sorry?
The workshop is digging
Yeah.
deeper into all of this, more detail?
We are at the beginning of the journey, yes.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you soon.
All right. 8.3, high school co-op renewals. Back up to the stand.
Say him again.
All right, this one's easy. I'm asking for a renewal approval, and really it's new, but for most of us, it's going to look like a renewal for girls hockey. Currently, we are in a co-op with Dodgeland, Horicon, Columbus, Mayville, and Wayland Academy. What we would like to do is add Waupun, which this is good news. They currently send their girls up to Fond du Lac to play. They are currently playing with our youth over at the Family Center, so it's a partnership that makes sense. This is done again to help our numbers, sustain numbers, but also to get us to a third line and then hopefully, eventually, fingers crossed, to a JV program for developmental purposes. So this not only would help us next year right away, but also long-term. So it is considered by the WIA new, but the only thing that changes is we're just adding Waupun.
And does this come up for consideration every year, or is this a 2-year?
No, this is a 2-year. The reason why I have to bring it here is because adding a new school technically makes it new. So
Okay.
it's new technically.
Okay, so it's actually in the second year of the co-op, but it's
Correct.
considered new
It would start for
just
next
because
year,
of that.
yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I make a motion, we approve the co-op as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the co-op as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not, same sign. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
8.4.
Good
Do
evening.
we really need to talk about snow?
Yes, unfortunately, I know it's not fall until next week, but good evening. Pete Warwick, District Facilities and Safety Officer. In your packets, you should have 2 documents from me. One being the snow plowing proposal comparisons we've had since 2020-2021 school year, and also a brief sheet that explains the background, the basic information, and the recommendation moving forward with the snow bid. And the reason why we do it in September is because we normally have snow in October, and the October board meeting, of course, is late due to the budget hearing. So September works out great, and then whoever gets the bid then can prepare from now until then, so we're ready to go once the snow does come, which is hopefully not very soon.
Any questions for Pete?
So Pete, apparently the costs look pretty similar to last year's and everything
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
only a small modest increase on the sidewalk clearing. Otherwise, everything's been the same for the last 2 years.
And no, obviously, problems from a service standpoint? They've been
No,
good to
not at
work
all.
with?
Not at all. And then when I do get calls from principals, which does happen sometimes. I give a call, and within 10 minutes, they're there taking care of it. So really good working relationship.
Well, I'm going to make a motion and then hope that, for no snow. I make a motion that we approve Griswold Excavating and Construction LLC to perform contracted snow removal.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second then for approval of the snow removal contract as presented. Ask for a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us to 8.5, donation acceptance.
All right, good evening. So a little background on the donation tonight. Currently, baseball facilities are limited in the area, and the district's ball field is only one of 2 regulation fields in the entire district boundary. The Leave Your Legacy group has raised significant dollars to improve our current facility to enhance the access and experience for baseball programming throughout our community. In accordance with the Board of Education's 5-year facility plan, adding lighting to the Beaver Dam High School baseball field is scheduled for the 24-25 fiscal year. Lighting the baseball field will not only enhance access and opportunity for our own high school programs, it will increase the ability for our community to use the field through the Beaver Dam Youth Baseball Program and American Legion Post 146 program. It will also provide more flexibility in start times of events and help with transportation and logistical challenges at the high school. The Leave Your Legacy group is making a generous donation in the amount of $125,000. This dollar amount will cover any general fund expenses associated with lighting the baseball field. In order for the 5-year facility plan to be actualized in the plan's timetable, private donations are essential to ensure that the general operating budget is not negatively impacted. This type of grassroots community effort allows people who are passionate about specific opportunities like this to make investments that add great value to the community. I am excited to work with the Leaving Your Legacy group and our district team to bring this project to completion in the near future. I am requesting tonight that you approve the receipt of this donation, and in doing so, authorize the administration to use these funds and other available funds associated with community accessible enhancements in order to complete the baseball field lighting project identified on the 5-year facility plan. Are there any questions?
Thanks for your work on that. I know one of the things you kind of mentioned really quickly in there was like the flexibility with the events. And I know that not having lighting really causes us to pull kids out of school earlier to get to events that can be played during the daylight. So I know that this is really important, can help us. And also, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the partnership that we're able to have with the community when we can help provide the facilities for those events, so that we don't need to duplicate everything, that we can share these things too. So the fact that that it's not just going to be used by the high school students, but by the Legion and the youth groups, and also some adult hardball teams, just really appreciate the chance to have this full partnership with them as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a time frame plan for this particular lighting project then?
I don't know if that there's a definitive time frame, but ideally, we would like to complete it in the 23-24 fiscal year.
Okay.
I think some of the people in the baseball community would like them up right now.
Right
In case they want to play winter ball.
Before the snow falls.
So if the board chooses to approve this donation and authorize the administration to move forward, then Ryan and Pete would then work to firm up bids and start to work on planning and move forward, but we didn't want to get the cart too far ahead of the horse.
This is pretty exciting. When I first got on the board, this was talked about a lot, and especially with our strong history of baseball in Beaver Dam, and you know, the retired coaches we had like Coach McDonald and Coach Loyes. I know Joe was really adamant about getting this done, and I'm sure our current coaches like Nate Wilkie and Terry Kiefer, and as well as Sweet Really Tiffany Wilkie and Ann White, are excited that this is coming on down the road now, and it's really good to see that we've had such generous donations from a lot of communities, a lot of organizations, former community members, business members, and I know the White family, White Construction, has always been very generous to the baseball group, and it's just really exciting to see this happen. So thank you to everyone. I'm not sure I forgot a few people, but it's good to see this finally move forward.
Yeah, so we have some of the members from that group here. And obviously, you guys, you're back in the corner, but you just raise your hand. Obviously, the Eberleys. The Eberleys were also foundational in coming up with this money. I know many of you, and I appreciate all your efforts. Mr. Kiefer, I didn't forget about you back there. I see you. You're right behind the white pole, though. And obviously, I know Mr. Kiefer from playing sports myself. So really appreciate it. Appreciate all the effort that you put forth. And hopefully here, with an acceptance of that donation tonight, the school district can put our 2 cents worth in and make this come to completion. So again, appreciate it.
Thank you.
With that, I'm going to move that we accept a donation from the Leave Your Legacy Project Group.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second, then to approve the donation of $125,000 from Leave Your Legacy Group as presented. I ask for a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Do that now?
Yeah.
They're leaving, so yeah.
Oh.
We're gonna send a couple board members over there and grab a couple pictures with you guys. So just give us a couple minutes.
You guys should go.
You want me to go?
Mary, you should go. We should have to go over there too.
because I don't want to be in the picture.
I feel like we should have some music here. I feel like we should have a little music in our break.
There's no good picture wall here, just for the record.
I did make a new picture on the building that you knocked down, just saying.
To Mary.
No. Oh, I didn't see these things.
Yeah.
Got everybody back? Got everybody back. All right. We will go ahead then and move on to 9 and 9.1. Operations, which,
Operations did not meet in August because we had a workshop, and our next meeting is next week, Monday, at 6:30, whenever the teaching and learning is done.
And special meeting.
and special meeting, yeah. So Lisa's not here, so 9.2, teaching and learning obviously did not meet. And we'll meet before operations, and then just note, please, that you got special board meeting in between there. So make sure you just check your calendars. And then we also, then 9.3, our last special meeting was a workshop review specific to school success plans, plans and district strategic actions. And I really like how this kind of laid out with our entire strategic plan. So obviously we have this broad strategic plan. Obviously in support of that strategic plan, every single year the administrators get together and come up with district strategic actions. From those actions then, the school principals, along with their guiding coalitions, right, develop their school success plans, which obviously then lead into the individual student learning objectives. So I really like the way that it flows, right? We're always directing ourselves back to our strategic plan, right? And then cascading that downward to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to support that strategic plan. So in this specific workshop, the 23-24 district strategic actions were presented. There are 6 of them. And then the school principals and the associate principals share their school success plan components, which included their greatest area of need, the data that they use to determine those areas in need, and then provided a summary of their goals, key action steps, and plans and progress for monitoring and reporting. So really appreciate the administration taking the time to sit down with us and review. Obviously, sometimes those can be difficult conversations, right? Because we take a look at the data, right? And then we see where we maybe didn't make as much gain as we wanted to, so that greatest area of needs, and then having these guys obviously come up with their school success plans to make sure that that greatest area of need gets taken care of and corrected, and we see improvements in those areas. So again, appreciate the administration sitting down with the board and having that discussion on August 21st.
I just want to add that I even had emailed Mark after we had that workshop that it was one of the best ones I think we've had in a long time. I appreciate all the principals and the assistant principals who contributed to the information we received and everything with that. And I think we're all on the same page as to student achievement and where our needs are and how we're going to continue moving the bar higher. So thank you all for your help on that.
yeah, it was exciting to see the enthusiasm of everyone that night. That, you know, there's always enthusiasm, but it seemed to be like an extra amount of enthusiasm that night. So it was good to see. So.
And I mean, the amount of reflection that went into your goals and the work you've done with your guiding coalitions, and even the administrators that had been on staff for like a week and then had to get up in front of the board and present. Your week of reflection was phenomenal, but your staff's, all the work that goes into those goals, like, we understand we only get to see them a few minutes, but you've put hours and hours and hours into them, and we just really look forward to seeing the fruit of all your hard work this year. So you're off to a great start. Let's see where we go.
All right. Board engagement. Any opportunities for board engagement? I know the school year's just started and well underway. We got obviously homecoming coming up this week, so more opportunities for engagement. Anybody have anything else I'd like to share out from an engagement standpoint?
Just a couple of things. Really always enjoy seeing all the staff come back together again at the beginning of the year. It's always a lot of fun, and there's a lot of energy in there for the presentation, so there's that, and I really did think that was a fantastic start to the year.
I attended the Scholarship Foundation golf outing along with Chad and Mark and Isaac, so it was good to connect with those people and network, and cost me a driver, but
I was going to ask how did you guys do? Did you represent us well, or?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I was really hoping I would have won the $1,000 giveaway at Old Hickory for a new driver, but I didn't get it. So I guess I have to go buy a new one now.
There you go.
Doesn't work when you miss the ball by about 4 inches and your driver head goes about 30 yards in front of you.
4 inches is short by about 14.
Aww.
So, oh yeah.
You are a golf club manufacturer's best friend.
Yep. Yep. You can tell I'm a farmer because I did a lot of plowing that day, of course, too. So.
I had an opportunity to go to the home opener of the football game, which was awesome. Big shout out to Mr. Chauncey for handing out the bratwurst to everybody. That was great. Those things were tasty, so thank you. And the rest of the team that helped with that too. As a good game to go see. And like John said, had the Scholarship Foundation golf outing. So thanks to the Scholarship Foundation as well for having us and for all they do for our students.
Anybody else?
I just want to make a shout out to John. His birthday is tomorrow.
Here's the story.
All right, we'll move on to recognitions then. I'd like to start out recognitions by recognizing one of our own. So Marge, sitting to my left here. Marge has achieved level 5 in the Wisconsin Association of School Boards Member Recognition Program. And just for those of you, educational-wise, right, level 5 is the highest level. And obviously reflects her ongoing commitment to professional development as a board member for the Beaver Dam Unified School District. So Marge, thank you very much for your continued involvement in education to make you the best school board member you possibly can for our school district. Thank you very much. Other areas that people would like to share.
I'll just take a moment to recognize our entire Beaver Dam family, from administration to our certified staff, building and grounds, food service, everybody that we have on our team for the start of the school year. It sounds like it's going wonderful. So a big thank you to all of you that make that happen. Appreciate it. Thank you.
As I said, this week is obviously homecoming week. So just from a proactive standpoint, I am absolutely sure that all of our staff, all of our students, and all of our families will be out full force to support all of the activities this week from a homecoming standpoint. Shout out to everybody in recognition of that, and hopefully we'll be recognizing all those people at the next board meeting when we've found that we've had a really successful homecoming. We also had a STEM grant from the National Lieutenant Governors Association. So a $500 STEM grant was given to the middle school. So thank you for whoever put that together and applied for that. Obviously, any donation and acceptance of that, obviously, as we've seen tonight, is encouraging and appreciate that. Other recognitions, anybody else has?
I can recognize the Beaver Dam boys varsity soccer team who helped with the Second Harvest Mobile Food Pantry on Saturday morning. These guys worked hard for a couple hours on Saturday. It was bright and early. It was pretty impressive to have them there that early.
Anything else?
Got a couple. Aubrey Lehman, one of our students, powerlifting. She qualified for nationals just this past week, so congratulations to her. And then I know Peter Warwick likes recognition and hugs. So Peter has, Peter, I can't even, can't even say it. Pete has officially, I don't know if I've referenced it before, but he did earn his WASBO facilities certification. So that's a lot of different courses and modules and over 30 hours of PD. So you are certified, which you were qualified before, but this just kind of puts a little topper on it. So great job. Thanks, Pete.
Nice job, Pete.
That's all I got.
That's it. All right, so let's move on to 10 and look for a motion to move into closed session.
I move the board recess into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85, paren 1, paren C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically to discuss specific employees.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second, to move into closed session. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 All right, we're going to move into closed session. We'll be back momentarily. All right. We are back into open session. We will move forward with 12.1.
I have one resignation on the board agenda for your consideration tonight.
I make a motion, we approve the resignation as presented.
I was wondering who's going to do that. We have a motion and a second then to approve the resignation as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not, same sign. All right.
I have a couple leaves of absence for your consideration this evening.
I make a motion, we approve the leave of absences as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the leaves of absence as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not, same sign. Okay.
For appointments tonight, we have Ann Ambrosius, kindergarten teacher at Lincoln Elementary School. That's a 20% FTE. That's a job share. We have Jane Gertz, science teacher at the middle school. Stanley Walker, fourth grade teacher at Jefferson Elementary School. Hopefully you approve them since they've been working for a few weeks. Casey Conger, science teacher at the high school. This is a long-term sub from September 29th to October 23rd. Brianna Drake Bermania, 4K teacher as a long-term sub at Jefferson from September 5th to November 20th. And then Tim White, Phi-Ed teacher at the high school as a long-term sub from September 27th to October 19th.
I make a motion, we approve the appointments as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second then to approve the appointments as presented. Roll call vote, please.
Present? Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us down to 13.1, payment of claims.
I move for payment of claims in the amount of $4,059,844.71.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for payment of claims. Ask for a roll call vote again, please. Yes.
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 I'm stuck in thought again.
Are we done?
All right, I think we are done. We're on to 14. Ask for a motion for adjournment.
Also move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those not, say